All right. So you guys, I'm hoping y'all can't hear all the chatter in the backdrop, but I'm just gonna, okay, good. Thank you, Miss Anita. I have to keep it moving. It's somewhat distracting for me, but um it is what it is. Okay, so I hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Can't believe it's already going into the third week of October, moving right along into November, and now it officially feels like fall in Texas, at least because it's actually getting cold. And I have to, after this call, need to cover my plants. So they say we're about to have a little bit of a freeze, and so don't want all my plants to die. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. So guys, most of the time when I think of topics that I want to share with you, most of the time, like I have this urge to like go back and always talk about how to build the business and all the things that most of you that are regulars on these calls, you really kind of know how to do. You might need some reminders every now and again, but for the most part, you know to do those things. So the reason why I don't normally talk about those things is because you've got lots of other leaders, lots of other trainings, lots of other resources to get to gather that content, right? But when it comes to really your mindset, that's what I always end up coming back to, because I always end up seeing that the people who end up staying in this for the long haul and actually have success at this business are the people who are very, very serious about their own personal growth, and the people in this business who are very, very much so bought into the idea of as a man thinketh, so is he. And so it is really my job, knowing that I know what I know, what I know about this particular topic, to constantly revisit it, because until I get 100% participation 100% of the time in people really believing that this is really what it takes in life, honestly, in every area of your life is all about what is going on in between your ears, then that's when you're going to see transformational things happen for you and your family. And so I also don't just like come up with things on the fly. I normally have things that are happening within my own life and my business, interactions that I'm having with different people that make me come to the realization that I need to talk about a certain topic. And so I'm just going to apologize in advance, because what I'm going to talk about tonight, we are going to talk about again, probably in December, because a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight is specific to the Slight Edge book, which is our book study for the month of, for our fourth quarter book study. If you haven't already gotten the book, I highly recommend that you get it now. Go ahead and get it started, like get started reading it. After this call tonight, I promise you, I made the graphic last week. I think I just forgot to post it. I will post kind of the schedule for reading this book. This is a book that you don't want to miss reading any part of it. I know some of you start really strong, but then you kind of fall off. You really want to read this book cover to cover. And after you finish reading it, you'll probably realize that this needs to be in your list of books to read minimum once a year. Circle Maker is one of those for me. Slight Edge is now one of those. Think and Grow Rich is one of those for me. There's several in my library that's just like every year for the rest of my life, I probably need to read these books. Okay. So glad to hear a lot of you have already gotten them and have it in your cart. Go ahead and press like pay now and get it, because you don't want to miss this book study. So, so first and foremost, between the interactions I've had over the past couple of weeks, me really digging deeper into the Slight Edge, because this is my second time reading it, and then knowing that I'm doing this as a book study with you guys, facilitating that for November, December, or part of December. And I'm getting ready to do a dual training in Fort Lauderdale, Florida in just a couple of weeks for corporate. I had to start going over some of my content that I present at that training. And one of the first slides that I pulled up that I do at this dual training is about your automatic thinking, right? 90 to 95% of our thinking and actions are automatic. Isn't that kind of crazy? That you literally, when people say you're like functioning on autopilot, we absolutely are doing that. You may not realize it, but 90 to 95% of our thinking and actions are automatic. So you just don't want to consume information. You need to identify really simple systems and then implement them daily and weekly. You've got to do the things, right? Because getting on these calls is fine and dandy. Reading all the books is fine and dandy. Doing the challenges is fine and dandy. But if you're not actually doing the things on a very regular basis, and getting into a rhythm of doing the things that you want to do that will transform your life, you really are just kind of spinning your wheels. Okay. So, most of my content tonight will come from Slight Edge, but it's one of the chapters at the end of the book where I think most people will fall off and not read it. And so I'm like, you know what? If I do it twice, it won't matter because half the jokers won't read it anyway. Okay. So hoping that's not the case, but here we are. Okay. So this particular chapter, it talks specifically about investing in yourself. And it starts with a quote by Abraham Lincoln. It says, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." Okay. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And so what Lincoln was essentially saying, that I'm going to spend twice as much time working on the tools of the job as I am on the task itself. So many of us go years working on the task, working on the task, working on the task. But in this task called your life, right? This task that we're calling our life, right? What are the tools of the job? Anybody just want to popcorn out? What are the tools of the job and the task called what is our life, right? If the task is our life, what's the tool? What are the tools?
Mindset.
Mindset.
Thinking.
Really, essentially, in very simplistic terms, Adrian, thank you for answering, babe. You, right? Which is pretty much what Adrian's saying. Your mindset is you. You are the axe. You're the axe. You are the tool. And so in terms of mastering and living this slight edge life that Jeff Olson speaks about in his book, the most important force that you can harness to accelerate and amplify your path through life is the power of continuous learning. So I want you to think about the quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Like so many of us were like, oh, I know the things I need to do. I just, either don't do them or I do them and I don't see the results that I'm looking for. Well, there's a missing link, right? There's a gap. If you know what to do and you are doing them, or you know what to do and you're not doing them, there's a gap as to why you're not doing them or why you're doing them and not getting the results. And the gap is normally going to be that you are not doing the investment in yourself. You're not participating in investing in yourself enough for you to see that level of growth, for you to actually see the change that you want to see in your life. Okay. In any aspect of your life, obviously on this call, for the purposes of this call, we're talking about your business, right? And so here's a statistic that many of you have heard before because we talked about it in another book that we've read. But the reason why you probably have read it in another book is because it's such a mind-blowing statistic. And that is, among high school graduates who do not go on to college, 58%, more than half, never read a book again. Ever, like for the rest of their life. 58% of people who don't go on to college, they never read a book again. And so when I first read that figure in the book, I can't remember what book it was. It was a book that we've done in a book study on the team. When I first read that statistic years ago, my mind was blown. I was shocked. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really that surprised because at the end of the day, there's got to be a reason why 95%, you know how we say, oh, we're the 2%ers or we're the 5%. There's got to be a reason why there's only 5% or 2% of people in the world really fulfill their God-given purpose in life, right? And why you see 95% of people really paddling and they're sliding down, even though they may not realize it, they're sliding down this failure curve or they're living a mediocre life, right? There's got to be a reason for that. Well, part of the reason is that 58% of people that we know never pick up a book again if they don't go any further than being a high school graduate. That's a lot of people, y'all. But even the more mind-blowing thing is this, right? So we can say those people that they just aren't reading after high school, they're not really getting the knowledge that they need, right? They're just not getting the knowledge that they need. But illiteracy is a much bigger problem than most of us think, because according to the United Nations, more than 1 billion people cannot read. More than 1 billion people in the world cannot read. And most of us can't even imagine that, right? In our little bubble that we live in, we're like, how could 1 billion people in the world not be able to read? That is actually 1 out of every 7 people that don't know how to read. Okay. But consider this other fact and other alternative. Okay. Because this is really what makes the most sense to me. If you are one of that 58% who never picks up a book once high school finishes, like once high school is behind you and you never pick up a book, what is really the difference between you and the billion people around the world who couldn't read the book even if they did pick it up? What's the difference? There isn't any difference. Like you are essentially in that grouping of illiterate people as well. There's no difference at all. If you know how to read but you never pick up a book again, right? You might as well be in that statistic of the 1 billion people in the world who don't know how to read. And so love this quote. It's by Mark Twain. It says, "The trouble with the world is not that people know too little, it's that they know so many things that ain't so." Okay. So just imagine, like, I could go down a really big rabbit hole right now, but I will not. But how many of you figured out during COVID-19 that people have a lot of just wrong information in their brains? Like they're just misinformed, right? Lots and lots of people are misinformed about lots of things in life. So it's not the fact that people know too little, it's that people know too many of the things that just ain't so, right? And so it's our job to take a step back from our own life, because most of us think we know the things, we know the right things. But a lot of times we're just receiving information from our little silo or our echo chamber, and we're just believing that as fact, not really having done the research, right? And so it's our job to take a step back and really check ourselves too, to really understand and be confident that the information that we do have in our brains, that is actually the correct information, right? That's the reason why I'm so passionate about helping people to see the other side of what it means to step out of your comfort zone, the other side of fear, right? Because so many of us have literally been programmed and we have ingrained in our brain that there's only one way to earn a good and stable living. You got to go to school, you got to get a degree, you got to work at that job for 30, 40 years. So many people come from that belief system. So many people come from the belief system that healthcare is really healthcare, that it's not really just sick care, right? So many people don't believe in preventative health, right? Prevention. They completely believe in this idea that, oh, I'll just wait till I get sick and then I'll do something about my health at that time. No, you really should do something before, because you're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later, right? But either way, you're going to have to pay. And so all of these things are things that we should be really passionate about sharing and educating our community about, because this is what really makes the difference. When people know better, most of the time, they should choose to do better. Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you paid your own, out of your money, out of your own pocket, to attend a seminar or some sort of adult education class simply to improve yourself? Unfortunately, a lot of us don't use our hard-earned money, our hard-earned resources to invest in ourselves, right? If it's something that maybe it's a free something from our church, or if it's something that it comes with maybe a membership of some organization that we're in, maybe we'll do that thing. But I'm talking about you just seek out something on your own without somebody or something or some entity prompting you. You just go do it on your own for the sake of, I just want to grow myself. A lot of people don't do that. Okay. The other example that Jeff Olson brings about in this particular chapter is he talks about, well, when was the last time that you've been bowling? And so I don't want you to think literally, have you been bowling in the past 3-6 months? Okay. He's only using this particular sport as an analogy because it is pretty much one of America's biggest pastimes, like things that we do for fun. But it may be top golf for you. It may be putt for someone else if they don't have a top golf. It could be, going to the movies, just anything that is considered entertainment that is somewhat mindless, and especially if it's not your chosen sport. So some of you may be a league bowler, right? I'm not talking about you, right? Because it does take skills and things to master any sort of recreational activity like that, right? What he talks about, he says the average person bowls about a 70, a score of 70, right? Because most people don't have a ton of experience with bowling, right? So you bowl, if you're bowling 200, like you need to be doing something with bowling for sure, because you're obviously very good at it. But if you're the average person, your average score is going to be around 70. Okay. And he also did research and saw that the average American, which I found to be very, very shocking, the average person bowls about 233 times in his or her lifetime. That's really a lot, y'all. Like, that's a lot of time over the course of your life going to a bowling alley. Like, I know I've probably bowled a fair share in my lifetime just because my family, we actually do like to bowl, but I can't imagine 233 times in my throughout my entire life. But this is what the research is saying. I don't know. And his whole point of saying this, so y'all, is that all of those people, whether it was an average of 100 times in your lifetime, 50 times in your lifetime, or 233 times in your lifetime, which is what the study said, we all had something else better to do, correct? If we're not league bowlers, we all had something else better to do, okay? And he's saying that while he knows that bowling is one of America's biggest pastimes, most popular pastimes, he's asking the question, it's somewhat rhetorical, but it's actually a legitimate question. Wouldn't you rather have success be your most popular pastime? Okay. Wouldn't you want success to be your most popular pastime? And so he's asking this for a very specific reason. I really like that he posed this question in this way. He said, why wouldn't you want to spend a little time every day for a month learning what someone like a Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, what he spent a lifetime observing and putting onto paper? That's the question that he's asking us, right? He's like, because we can do, and you guys, please hear me when I say this, and please hear Jeff Olson as he wrote this. He's not suggesting that we don't do anything fun in life. We never go out with our spouse and go bowl. We never go to a football game. We never, you know what I'm saying? He's not saying those things at all. What he is saying is so many of us, to the detriment of our own growth, all we think about once we finish school, whether we finish high school or whether we finish college, doesn't matter. Whatever higher education we've received, after that, most people do what? They find a job, they work the job, they parent if they have children, they get married, they live the married life, and they do nothing else outside of that except for work and then play. So it's work, play, family, work, play, family. How many of you agree with that? That there's not a lot of time that people are spending intentionally saying, I want to be better. Like, I intentionally want to be better. The only time most people do that is when crap hits the fan in their life. I was going to use the expletive. Like, when crap hits the fan and they're like, my husband's left me, my children hate me, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, I've got to get my crap together because my life is falling apart. That's most of the time what we do, right? But what about doing these things like right when we start our life, like as adults, like right when we get into adulthood, like even before then? Like, I'm trying to teach my kids some of these principles now, like in middle school and high school. Like, oh my gosh, Adrienne, yes, girl, we are so reactive. And so that is what I think our community has to be about, is like instilling these seeds and planting these seeds and nurturing and watering these seeds with people in our community to stop being so reactive about life and becoming proactive about life, and becoming, specifically as it relates to this call and this topic for this call tonight, being proactive about our own personal growth and investing in ourselves. Hey guys, hold on just 1 second. I've got to get my kid to take this dog. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, so the other topic that he brings up, oh no, let me go back. So relating back to this idea of all play, just working your 9 to 5 and then all play the rest of your life, right? But never thinking about investing in yourself. What he is suggesting, Jeff Olson, he's saying that simple error in judgment, if someone could bowl 233 times in their lifetime, just as just an active pastime, right? Nothing like you're trying to become a professional bowler, you're getting paid to bowl, nothing like that. And please insert whatever it is that you do. Is it, if it's Netflix binge watching and chilling at home, if it's scrolling Facebook? I mean, so many of us have so many other addictions, things that we do, and we don't even necessarily have to call them addictions, y'all, even though I do think social media is an addiction for a lot of us. But let's just not say that scrolling our phones and just being addicted to our phones is the thing. Think of anything else. Okay. His whole point is that simple error in judgment, okay, compounded over time. So if it's 30 minutes a day that you know you should not be scrolling your phone, or 45 minutes or an hour a day that you know you really should not be taking on another show that you start watching, okay, and binging, and then picking up another show as soon as that one's over. Doing that and compounding that over time will put you down the curve of failure, and it's going to take you away from everything you've hoped for and everything that you've dreamed about. Okay. And it's just really putting that in front of you and thinking about that instead of looking at your life 20 years from now and feeling like, man, what the heck did I do for the past 20 years? And why do I feel so unfulfilled? So then he kind of breaks down this idea of book smarts versus street smarts. Okay. He talks about that there's this idea that you can do all this studying in the world, right? You can do all the studying in the world and it won't build your business, right? So you can hop on all these calls every single week and you're going to gain insight from the things that I share and the things that other leaders from this team share. But it's not going to build your business, right? Because what do you actually have to then go do after you take in and consume the information? You have to actually act on it, right? You can't decide that, okay, I'm going to know all this information. I'm doing a series now on all the products, right? We're doing a back to the basics series, and we talked about the brush check kit, and now we're talking about Slim, and we're going through all the products, and I'm doing that in Made for More this week until the end of the month. And so you can gain all that new knowledge about the products that you may or may not have known, or maybe you knew and forgot about it. And all of that is still not going to establish your health, right? Because you can look and read all that stuff all day long, but if you actually don't take the products every day, if you actually don't do some of the things that you need to do in conjunction with taking your products consistently, then guess what? Your health's not going to improve, right? You can do all those things, but it's not necessarily going to create a rich and fulfilling life for yourself. And so what it all boils down to, y'all, and this is really where the rubber meets the road, which is why I love this book so much, is that it takes you getting up out of your chair and doing the things, right? It really is a matter of, are you going to talk about it or are you going to be about it, right? And so his whole theory is you do the thing and you shall have the power. And the only way that you have the power is to do the thing. You just got to do it. And the main thing is that you learn by doing, because so many of you are trying to become the perfect ambassador. I'm going to be the perfect leader. I want to have all the things together. I want to have all the confidence. I want to have all the knowledge. I want to have all the content that I need in my brain as it relates to the products, as it relates to leadership, as it relates to public speaking, as it relates to presenting in front of large groups, all the things. You're saying all these things you need before you even really get going. And he's saying, no, you just learn by doing, right? The journey really does start with a single step and not with thinking about taking the step. How many of you get caught up and you're thinking about taking the step and you actually start thinking that that's the action? How many of you have gotten caught up? You're like, oh, I think about it so much that I actually think that I'm doing something. Like, I don't mean to be funny, y'all. I really not trying to be facetious because I've been there too. It's like you think about working out so much. It's like, oh my God, I'm really going to work out. I'm really going to do it this time. And you think about it and you're like thinking you're actually doing the thing. No, you hadn't gotten your butt up out of bed. You hadn't taken out one step. Not one thing has changed on your Apple Watch. Not one ring has been closed. It's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with the personal growth and improvement in your life, right? Until you actually take the steps and do something about it, doing all the things and listening to all the stuff, nothing's going to change. And so he says, this is another quote by Confucius: knowledge without practice is useless. Knowledge without practice is useless. But he also added a second line, and practice without knowledge is dangerous. Y'all, that is true. Practice without knowledge is dangerous. Okay. So one of the things that this author talks about a lot, he gives a lot of really amazing practical analogies. And one of the analogies that he gives is he talks about the Apollo rocket, right? The Apollo rocket ship. And he talks about this degree of accuracy, right, that you have to have in pursuit of getting the Apollo rocket ship up into space and then landing back down safely, all the things, right? And he said, in order for this rocket ship to do everything it needs to do to go up in space, do what it's supposed to, what its mission, accomplish its mission, come back down, make it back safely, it would mean you'd be perfectly on target and on course, no more than the 10 days in any given year. Okay, so the next time you are giving yourself a hard time because you feel like you've gotten off track, he wants us to think about the Apollo program and give yourself a break. Because when you think about a rocket ship, okay, a rocket ship is never ever going completely in a straight line. You know how people say the closest distance from point A to point B is a straight line? Well, that's not really true, because at no point in any given point in time are you completely going in a straight line. One of the greatest examples he gave is like, how many of you have been on a highway in the past couple of weeks? Okay, so just drove to Arkansas last week. I swear to you, I don't know how I got home safely, because I literally fell asleep at least 3 or 4 times. It's such a crazy weekend. And I was just thanking God that I made it home safely, which will bring me to another analogy, another example in just a few minutes that he talks about. But if I'm driving my car, okay, and I only kept my steering wheel, like I never ever moved my steering wheel, would I continue to go straight, or would I move to the left or the right? I would move to the left or the right, because there's no way that we ever drive, and because the highway looks like it's going in a very straight line, doesn't it? But the highway is not really going in a completely straight line. You have to like turn your steering wheel to the left a little bit. You have to turn your steering wheel to the right a little bit in order for you to continue to go straight and not veer off the side of the road. Am I correct? And so that shows you that there's never just a point in time that it's just a straight line. There's always going to be some course correction, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. You see what I'm saying? And so he's taking the same analogy with this Apollo rocket ships. So he says, you want to double your rate of failure. He said, because you're thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but it isn't that at all. You can be discouraged by failure, or you can learn from it. And so you want to go ahead and make those mistakes. And so his whole point of using this analogy with the Apollo rocket ship is that he's saying that there's this gyroscope that that this is the tool that these what do you call them, astronauts, that they're using in order to make sure that they continue to go as straight of a line as possible, and they're able to course correct. So every single time they're going, they have someone in their ear that's saying, okay, you need to go, and they're saying a certain number of degrees. Okay, you got to go to a certain number of degrees degrees to the right. You need to go to a certain number of degrees, and it's like a very small amount, right? It's the same thing when you're driving, okay? Because course correction is where you're going to find success. And that's on the other side of, that's what we consider failure. It's really not failure though. It's really just course correction. Do y'all see what I'm saying? But you guys think, okay, oh man, I signed up 6 people last month. I earned the Apple Watch, and man, all 6 people have turned off their subs. And you think that's failure. No, it's not. It's just a course correction. You just got to course correct. Maybe you didn't share with them really that this is truly something that you have to be in this for at least 60, 90 days minimum. This is a commitment. It's not just a one and done. It's kind of what I'm saying, this trend with a lot of us because of the reset. The reset is a really easy sell, y'all. Okay. You could just talk about reset and you could get a continuous funnel of business your way, because people like the immediate results, right? People like thinking, okay, I can just do this for 3 days. I'll drop $130, $40 on 3 days for me to drop 5 or 6 pounds. And they're delusional in their thinking that they're going to lose 7, 8, 9 pounds. And then that's going to just stay off if they just go back to what they were doing. Right. But at the end of the day, when you have an Apple Watch on the line or a couple pair of Nikes on the line, it's like, let them believe what they want to believe, right? And then we'd be mad at ourselves when the next month these jokers turn off their subs. It's like, no, it was unrealistic for you to think they were going to stick when all you did was send them your website and say, this is how you order, because you were just for the quick sale. You were just ready to get your hands on a free pair of Nikes. Does that make sense? And even though, y'all, most of this is done in your subconscious mind. So I'm not even saying that you have nefarious intent, right? It's just you're like, oh, I'm busy. Okay, this person wants a reset. I don't feel like explaining all the stuff about the commitment and the triplex and educating them and getting the body healthy from the inside out. That takes more work, does it not? Yes, it takes more work. And so most people don't want to do that work. But then you act shocked the next month when you have no recurring orders. And so this is what it means to course correct. It's not failure. You're simply course correcting. And so as it goes from here to the moon, there's a constant occurring series of adjustments that are turning what is predominantly a string of failures into ultimate success. This is what Jeff Olson shares. And so just like when he talks about the Apollo ship, you have this gyroscope too, and it works in the same way in your own life if you allow it to. If you allow yourself to experience course correction, right? Instead of looking at everything as if this is not for me, or this isn't going to work out, or I don't know that I can do this, or I can't stand having to deal with these folks that are in and out, and they want to shut off their subs, and they don't really want to get healthy, and they're just lying to me and lying to them. Like, we say all these things to ourselves, but at the end of the day, it's simple course correction, right? Your processor, Jeff Olson says, is the slight edge. Just like we think about the gyroscope being the processor, your processor in your own life is the slight edge. It's a consistent series of tiny, seemingly insignificant tasks and actions that are easy to do, but it's also the things that are easy not to do. And in this case, doing these things leads you directly to the moon if you were an astronaut, instead of shooting off in a vacuum of outer space, right? So it's literally the way that you look at this. I look at the small things that I do daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly as that's the slight edge. Me posting every day, me showing people a little bit of a glimpse of my own life, me then sharing and educating about the products, me doing team calls consistently, me being in touch with the people on my team who are taking products consistently, me helping people get a good jump start on their reset, me helping people grow their business as they want, if they want to become a leader and grow to emerald or above. All of those are things that in the day-to-day work, y'all don't see those behind the scenes things. That's what I'm doing behind the scenes every day. Just because I'm not on, I only do a Tuesday tip on Tuesdays, right? I only do Tuesday team calls on Tuesday nights. But all the hours in between, these are the things that I'm doing. They seem super boring. They seem super menial. They seem super insignificant until they're not, right? And so all those things compound over time. And so knowing where it is that you want to go and knowing how the slight edge works to take you there, you will make those adjustments automatically. And so you make those right choices daily, the ones that serve you, right? Maybe if you do something recreationally, just a little bit too much, doesn't mean that you give it up completely, but maybe you realize, okay, I do watch a little bit too much TV, or I do go bowling with my girlfriends too often, or I do go and have happy hour with my girlfriends. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe it's not bowling. Maybe you go to happy hour with your girlfriends. It's not that you shouldn't do it, but maybe you shouldn't do it to the degree in which you're doing it. Because guess what? That's not moving the needle in your life like it should, right? It may be helping in some ways because everybody needs community. And everybody needs to have some wind down time where it's just like they can decompress and not have to think about all the things, right? That I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that aspect of your life, but shave some of that off to create the time and create the space for you to actually intentionally grow yourself and then actually practice the things that you need to in order to move the needle in your life. Because again, consuming all the content doesn't amount to a hill of beans, as my grandmother would say, if you're not actually going and putting those things into action. Okay. In time, your internal gyroscope, using the same analogy, it will learn the drill so well that it will become automatic. Okay. So some of you are like, man, it just seems so hard to do all those things that Robin's saying to do. And you guys are not going to do the things that I have to do in my business. You're not going to do it to the degree in which I do it, because I'm in a much different place in my business than most of you. Does that make sense? But all of the simple things that I'm saying that I do on a daily basis, you're going to do it, just not to the degree in which I do it, unless you're wanting to be diamond in a year. Right. But this is the thing, y'all. This is the thing. When you do something over time enough, guess what it becomes? You're going to start doing those things automatically. It's going to become natural for you. Guys, posting on social media was not something natural for me when I started Plexus. I was not a poster at all. Like at all. I posted when my kids had a birthday. I posted when I went to, had an anniversary dinner with my husband. I mean, those were the times that I really posted on social media. I was not a daily poster at all. But it wasn't until I decided that this was a means to an end, and it was the way that I was going to show people that I was open for business, that it started to become automatic for me, because over time, you start to do these things on autopilot. Do I have to think about what I'm going to post? So it's not like I just, in my dreams, I just have this amazing content and then I just post it, automatically. No, that's not what I mean. But what I do mean is that it's not a rub for me to be like, oh, let me create some content today. It's something that I know I just have to do daily. Does that make sense? It's just something you will start to do over time automatically. Okay. And so one of the biggest things before we end, we have about 6 more minutes. One of the other parts of this chapter I thought was super insightful. He talks about a penny for your thoughts. Okay. And he really says a penny that is $10 million for your thoughts, right? Because it's not just a penny for your thoughts, y'all. Your thoughts can literally turn into whether you make something extraordinary out of your life, or whether you just sit back and continue to live, not that you are, but if you do feel like you are living just a mediocre and not reaching your highest potential. Okay. So how many of you believe that there's a running commentary in your head? Like there's a running commentary constantly in your head. Okay. Yes. Most of you, I think that. Some of you are raising your hand. Some of you aren't. I don't know. I'm hoping that most of you think that there's a running commentary, because it absolutely is. There's a running commentary in your head, and chances are that most of the time you're not even aware of what this running commentary in your head is saying. How many of you also believe that? That you really don't even know what your brain is telling yourself, right? You don't even know, right? Sometimes that running commentary even spills into the things that you say out loud to yourself. But most of the time, that running commentary is not anything that you even comes to your conscious mind, because how much of that is happening in your subconscious mind? Almost all of it is happening in your subconscious mind, y'all. This is really, really, really powerful. Okay. Most of the time, y'all, that silent voice that's whispering between your ears, there is no voice that is more powerful than that. And most of the time, you're not even aware that that voice is going off, because all you're hearing is all the voices in your conscious life. Does that make sense? You're hearing your husband saying something to you. You're hearing your kids saying something to you. You hear what you're saying. Okay, Krista, I've got to go do X, Y, Z, right? You're hearing these conscious voices. So you're not even realizing these subconscious voices that are going on, this commentary that's happening in your head all day, every single day. Okay. There is a reason why Napoleon Hill didn't title his book Build Sound Businesses and Grow Rich, or Do the Right Things and Grow Rich. You ever thought about that? Or Take Action and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill titled his book Think and Grow Rich. It was for a reason, right? Sure, you can do the right things, You can take the right actions. You can build
You're
sound
behind us.
businesses. You can do all the good stuff that you want, right? But Hill
Okay.
knew, Napoleon Hill, meaning the author of Think and Grow Rich, he knew that that wasn't really the point. Doing all the things wasn't really the point. He knew that the secret to how wealthy people actually become wealthy is what it starts with what they think, right? That's why he called the book Think and Grow Rich. The same reason why James Allen, if you've ever read the book As a Man Thinketh, he didn't title it As a Man Does, right? He titled the book As a Man Thinketh. And so these are powerful examples, y'all, of the slight edge. Okay. These are people that knew that your mind and what is happening in between your ears is the most powerful thing. Okay. Those thoughts that are happening in your subconscious mind, y'all, they are multiplying themselves. Okay. By the power of compounding interest. They are. And it's just like when you're thinking about any thought that you're having in your subconscious mind over time, and it's often a lot less time than you might expect. You might think you have to be thinking something over the course of 10, 20 years, right? For it to create this compound interest. But often it's a lot less time that you might expect that you're thinking these thoughts, right? That they come over and they start to take over your mind. Okay. And so it's not a matter of be careful what you wish for. How many of you have heard people say, be careful what you wish for, right? It's not even about that at this point. It's not about be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Forget wishing. It's a matter of you be careful what you're thinking, period, right? It is so important for you to be careful about what you're thinking, okay? So you, through the power of your own thoughts, you are the most influential person in your life. How many of y'all believe that? How many of you believe that? Through the power of your own thoughts, you're the most influential person in your life, which means that there's nobody more effective at undermining your success. How many of you believe that? I need to see a lot of hands raised because there is no one that is more effective at undermining your success and nobody more effective at supporting your success than you. No one, not your husband, not your kids, not your boss, not your mother, not your dad, nobody. It is all about you. Okay. The principal aim in self investment, improving yourself, is to train how you think and train what you think about, right? Your brain is literally made up of 100 billion neurons, y'all, and it has the capacity to perform up to 10 quadrillion unique operations per second. Isn't that crazy? Dr. Caroline Leaf talks about this in her book, Switch on Your Brain. 10 quadrillion unique operations per second. That's how many things are happening in your brain, in your subconscious mind at one time. Every second of every day, your brain is keeping track of billions of different metabolic activities going on throughout your body without your conscious awareness. And it has been doing this every second of every day that you've been alive. Isn't that fascinating? That's fascinating. There are two different broad types of function happening here, y'all, right? It is scary and liberating. You're so right, Miss Alnita. There's the conscious brain and then there's the unconscious brain. The conscious brain is incredibly powerful at what it does, but the scope of your conscious brain is very limited. The unconscious brain, though, it can remember trillions of phone numbers at any given time, right? If your conscious brain is like a flashlight, think about your conscious brain is like a flashlight where it can only illuminate one object at a time. Whereas your subconscious brain is like a super floodlight, right? How many of you have floodlights on your house? If you just turn on a porch light, it's just going to illuminate that one space. But if you have a huge floodlight in your backyard or your front yard, it's going to illuminate everything at once. But this happens in your brain, but that only happens on a subconscious level. Okay. So your conscious brain, guess what, y'all? It's easily distracted. Your conscious brain is easily distracted. The average person, surprisingly, y'all, this is really bad, loses conscious focus 6 to 10 times per minute. That really sucks. We lose conscious focus 6 to 10 times per minute. How many times do you think the subconscious loses focus? Never. The subconscious mind loses focus Never. Okay. So the truth is, okay, if you know anything about this, please go watch the documentary Heal. It talks all about the conscious and the subconscious mind. I'm telling you, it's fascinating, fascinating information. The truth is the subconscious runs virtually everything, y'all. The subconscious mind runs everything in your life. Your conscious can focus really, really well, but only on one tiny minuscule part of your life at any one given time. But your subconscious keeps track of everything. Your subconscious brain, your subconscious part of your brain keeps track of everything. So have you ever driven? This is what happened to me from Hot Springs, Arkansas, y'all. Have you ever driven or walked a familiar route while your mind was wandering and it was thinking about like some other thing, something going on at school or something going on at work, and you start drifting back through a movie you'd seen, or suddenly you wound up at your destination, right? That's how I felt when I got home. It was like I just wound up at my destination. How many times, like, because most of the time when you really get tired on a road trip, it's like right before you get home. That's what happened to me. It was like right before I got home, I was like, oh God, I don't know how I'm gonna get home. Like I was so tired. I was so ready to get home. And then I just wound up at home. And I was like, I don't even know how I got here. Right. And I know that I wasn't physically asleep, but honestly, my brain is just going on autopilot. Okay. And so what was almost like you didn't even know how you got there. That's how I felt, right? That's an example of automatic pilot. Okay. And your conscious mind has learned the route so well that it handed it over to your subconscious mind. That's essentially what happens. Okay. And just like the way that you tie your shoes, like how many of you wake up and you're getting ready to go on your walk in the morning and you tie your shoes, I don't know how I tied my shoes. Like, when did I tie my shoes? Like, cause you're doing, or I don't even, there's certain tasks that you do just subconsciously. You're on complete autopilot, right? Or the way you make your legs walk. You're not thinking about making your legs walk, right? You just put one foot in front of the other, right? And so all of these things, when you're answering, yeah, I do all those things, right? Or just when you answer when someone calls your name, right? You automatically do those things. Just like all of the quadrillions of metabolic functions that you do without thinking. The sobering fact is this, y'all, and this is really, really kind of scary. 99.9% of everything you do is on autopilot. 99.9% of everything you do is on autopilot. And so, in other words, it's the same way that you get home without thinking, right? Some days when you're coming home from work and you're living at the age 30 or 50 or whatever, and you're like, how did I even get here? Like, how did I get here where my life like is in this state, whether it's good or bad? It's because you've been on autopilot. How many of you know a lot of people, you may be choosing to not live in autopilot as much anymore because you're consciously living your life. You're making a choice, right? Just by being on this call, you're choosing a different life path, like to really focus on growing yourself. But how many of you know people, or you used to be that person? I used to be that person where you were living on autopilot. Those are the people that we're really trying to reach, all. We're trying to reach those people that are just going through the motions, because that's what most people do. And we know that there's something better out there for them. And so I'm going to end with this because we're out of time. Okay. How do you program your life route? If you're thinking, well, Robin, this is kind of like making me sad because if 99.9% of my life I'm living it on autopilot, how do I determine the choices and decisions that your subconscious makes for you and carving out your new life path if you want a different life for yourself, right? Well, it's the same way that you learn to tie your shoes, right? You create it first with intention. When we were kids and we were first learning to ride a bike, first learning to drive a vehicle when we were teenagers, first learning to tie our shoes when we were little kids, all of those things, we had to first do it with what? Intention, right? With your conscious mind, you had to do those things, okay? And then you repeated it over and over and over again, okay? And this is where the slight edge comes in, until it's handed over to your subconscious mind. So just like my example saying, I used to not be a poster, But now it's just in my subconscious mind that this is something I need to do. And so I automatically do it. It's something that is just, it's not even I'm checking a box. It's just like, it's something I know I need to do. Right. So I do it daily. Something also I need to do every day is to speak with someone in my business, speak with someone about my business, speak with someone about the products, and not just one person. It's obviously multiple people, but y'all get my drift, right? So those are things that are now automatic. When I first started this business 9 years ago, those things weren't automatic. And so you have to first start those things and do those things and create those things that you want to do, create it with intention, with your conscious mind. Over time, what will happen, it will be handed over to your subconscious mind. And at which point these things become automatic, right? So the magic 3 words that I'm going to end with is you want to do things until they become automatic, right? It's the same thing in your marriage. I could do a whole talk about that. Things that need to become automatic in your marriage, right? Things that need to become automatic with our parenting, right? Well, we're gonna fall short. I fall short every day. But guess what? I course correct, right? So instead of thinking of it as failure, it's not failure. You're just course correcting. Just like I'm course correcting when I'm driving my vehicle and I'm on a highway and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going straight, but you're never just going straight. You're course correcting a little to the right, a little to the left. You're always course correcting. That's what life is about. So those are the things I want you to walk away with, just living intentionally. And those things that aren't a part of your subconscious mind, that aren't done automatically, they can be handed over to your subconscious mind. But you have to do those things and create intention with those things with your conscious mind at first. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry I went a couple minutes over, but I'm hoping this will bless you in some way, because I know for me, it has been such a game changer. And I'm really, really excited for you guys to dig in to this book with me starting in November. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk
Thank
to you
you,
soon.
Robin.
Bye,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Robin, that was
Bye.
great.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Good night,
So
everyone.
good.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.